Education is about essentially teaching students to think. There's a lot involved with people. There are a lot of fundamentals and details involved with people, things you got to do. But essentially, at root, education as such, the nature of it is to help children learn to think, or expand the concept to college and adults and all that, adult education. But that's the essential. As it says here in one article, 14 August 2019, india.un.org, quote, this is the title, quote, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of minds to think, unquote. And yeah, as it says, quote, to most, education simply connotes a process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge and skills. Often, we do not lay enough emphasis on values, beliefs, wisdom, and habits, which are core to a good education. Good, well-rounded education should help to bring lasting positive changes in human life and behavior so that we can contribute to society in a meaningful and positive way to create unity and justice for all. Albert Einstein, during his visit to Boston in 1921, while commenting on college education, stated, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of minds to think, unquote. So, or as it says here, to continue, quote, the value of a school or college education is to train the mind to think something that cannot be learned from textbooks. It is to create the capacity of integrated understanding, an ability to use the knowledge intelligently. These are the fundamental aspects of the ethos of education that we continue to aspire for even today, unquote. Amen. And over here, on this other thing, on teachers.institute, titled, quote, Developing Reasoning Skills, a Cornerstone of Cognitive Learning, unquote, October 31st, 2025. Quote, reasoning is at the heart of how we learn. Every time a student connects a new idea to something that they already know, draws a conclusion from evidence, or works through a problem step by step, they are exercising reasoning. Yet reasoning is not just a natural byproduct of growing up. It is a cognitive skill that develops progressively and can be deliberately strengthened through the right experiences and teaching strategies. For educators, understanding how reasoning develops and how to organize learning experiences around it is fundamental to supporting meaningful cognitive growth, unquote. Amen. But it doesn't happen when you have incompetent administrators around who are incapable of helping it and incapable of thinking and incapable of rational thought and don't know what it is. That's one thing we need, as I said. We need to correct things, get good philosophic principles in play, and get good administrators in there, as other people have said too. Not just me, of course. Lots of teachers and people out there know that. It needs to be stated more, and we need to actually do something about it. It's for our children, after all. I mean, do we care about our children and love them? If we do, we should do something. It's like carrying the culture forward too. What kind of a world do we want to live in? It's serious. It's not an academic issue. Education's fundamental to a society and a culture more than many other things. But administrators should not be in their position unless they know some of this. They know what reasoning is. They know what logic is. They can recognize it in another person and they can practice it in their own minds. Because like other teachers, I've seen that. Like one person. Other teachers will know, they'll have similar stories, same exact stuff. And we know from experience with the person, it's not just a one-off thing. Sometimes when someone gives an example, it's like a concretized abstraction, as some philosophers call it. It's a concrete that doesn't just stand on its own. It's just not like some arbitrary thing out of nowhere, unconnected very much. It's like some works of art of classical times or something, some works of art. It's a concrete, but it has deep abstract meaning. So some concrete examples show like what a person is like, what their character's like, what their nature's like, how they think, gives insight into their psychology. So, like one thing I dealt with was, okay, so I'm working with some students. And, sensible people know in teaching music, like teaching to play an instrument, in sports, in other areas. We've got to repeat something over and over again to get it. It takes practice. It doesn't happen just once. So, I'm talking to this administrator, and they're allegedly trying to help me, even though they're a little crazy, clueless. Unfortunately, you want to help people, but some people can't be helped. I don't like this. I would prefer to reach out, take someone's hand, they're on the ground, help them out, help them pull themselves up, feel that strong grip, feel that humanity and goodness in their grip, no weakness, no backing off. Sometimes you can feel like when you shake someone's hand, certain characteristics like that. You can tell some things about a person, within context. Sometimes people are feeling bad or whatever. There's all these complicated things that come up, but, for the most part in all this. But, I'd rather do something like that, grab their hand, help them up, help them be better. But, some people, all you can do is sigh and stand back and watch. But so it's like that. So, unfortunately, they're not very intelligent, don't have the intellect to be in an administrator position, so I'm talking to someone like that, and I'm telling them about, maybe they're asking what I'm doing, I'm telling them about having students do some stuff over and over again, trying to repeat it so they get it, and then this administrator says, well, the definition of crazy, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It's like, again, it wasn't anything new. I just don't respect that person. So, no insult, whatever. I just felt sorry for them. Like, how ignorant are you? How little you grasp what education is, or learning, or thinking. What needs to happen for learning to take place, for knowledge and understanding. It was like bizarre, but wasn't unexpected because that's what I knew from that person. And then clearly enough, is what always happened for that type of person. Keep your mind open and be observant, because you'll find things like this, as other teachers will tell you. So the administrator says that, and then 3 days, a week or two later, this administrator was working with some kids in like arithmetic or algebra. And yeah, what do you think? The administrator comes in and shows me a worksheet that they had been doing to some students. Look, I had him do this and they couldn't get it at first. And so I had him do it over and over until they got it. And I'm just thinking, oh my God. Do you even grasp what you're saying? The contradictions that are going on in your head? How you're saying one thing and attacking someone and doing exactly the same thing, but it's okay? It's like unbelievable. No business being in education. It is so sad. On the one hand, it's like, you might want to disdain for the person, but you feel so sad that you can't even do that. But, that's one thing some teachers have to deal with in education. You got some people who are, as someone said in a different video, as I said, someone says, like this guy says, talking to like teachers in this interview, how many times have you been in an interview when it's like, you are interviewing, like, you are assessing me and you are incompetent. That's what it's like. That doesn't help education. That doesn't help students. That doesn't help teachers. That doesn't help retain good teachers. That doesn't help create a good environment. That doesn't help the students. There's just, think through the consequences of that, or how that redounds out and ripples through the system, and the kind of consequences it has when that's being done to other teachers. You don't trust this administrator. They very poor judgment. You don't. It's not a good environment to work in. It's not good to be in a situation where you don't trust coworkers like that, or someone who's supposed to be in charge of helping run the organization while you do your job. Someone who's in charge of assessing you and all that stuff. what kind of a assessment are they going to give, and why, and how's that going to affect you, and what's going to come up when they're hiring someone else, or when they want to fire someone else, and why. And when they say something about another person, you can't trust it. If you see the kind of errant judgment and the cognitive incompetence they have when they're talking to you about yourself, you got to remember that's what's happening when they're talking about other people too. You know, there's just this deep lack of trust. And then, you know, hiring and firing other people, lack of trust, lack of honesty, you know, it kind of affects the system. So that's the kind of thing we need to get rid of. That's one example. Again, it's not a one-off thing, you know. Think about the consequences of someone being that out of touch with the reality and trying to be in an educational institution where the whole purpose is to teach reasoning. So that's the kind of thing, again, we need to get straight. We need people in administration who can think and who can reason, who can practice it, and who can recognize it in others. Then we're going to be better off. That's just one of the things, of course. We got philosophic principles to get in place and all their implications, and we've got to straighten up administration. But that's the teacher's experience. Hopefully we can work on that, because we need to.